Have you heard of this situation where you or someone you know has applied to college early action? So they're supposed to find out by a certain date early, and then they log in on that date or the day after that date, and their application says it's still under review or it's pending. What do you do if that happens to you, and why would that happen? In this video, I'm going to talk about this circumstance that has affected several of my students this year and in past years, why it happens, what you can do about it. I'm going to give you 3 tips for what you should do if this has happened to you. My name is Brooke. I've been coaching students through the college admissions process for about 20 years. I've helped students get into top schools, Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, all of it, coaching them through finding their best stories and figuring out how to put together the best application possible to maximize their chances of getting in where they want to go. If you're earlier in this process, or maybe you have a younger sibling, we have an awesome course for the SAT, co-taught by me and one of our awesome senior level tutors who has coached many students to perfect scores on this test. That is taking place, SupertutorTV.com/intensive. You can find out more details on that. We also have an online course, self-paced online course for the SAT. It's also a complete curriculum package through digital means. So whether you're a tutor trying to give homework to people or whether you're a student trying to self-prep and you want to watch all the videos, check it out at SupertutorTV.com. For tutors, SupertutorTV.com/educators. Okay, so the first thing that a lot of students wonder is like, why is this happening? It's pretty simple. It's basically happening because the volume of applications was probably unanticipated, or it took them longer to get through the applications than they thought. So they're behind. I know for years, my early action students who lived in California would never, ever get a decision by the time University of Michigan promised it. And I just started putting that into my consulting, saying, oh, you're going to EA to Michigan, don't expect to find out by December 31st. You probably won't, because that used to be their date. Now they've pushed it back, knowing that they can't get through the volume of applications that they were doing. And some of you might also wonder, why are the EA release dates later than ED? Well, some of it has to do with volume. When you do early action, it's non-binding. So they have a greater number of students attracted to that kind of an admission plan. And so that's one thing. And my California students universally, bottom of the pile, unless they're a legacy. Nobody's finding out early. And that's how it used to be. And I'm sure other schools have invoked this, and they might not invoke it every year. It might not happen all the time, but when they can't get through that volume, this is something schools sometimes do. They get overloaded. But the other thing that can happen is it could be a legitimate mistake. So the first thing that you should do, make sure it wasn't a clerical error. Check in with the school. Now, you can check in with the school directly about your particular application, but you can also look for official announcements that might be on their social media or on their admissions website that gives a disclaimer about their early action decisions. It might be on the page where they list the early action release date, and they might give a note that certain out-of-state students may not have received their admissions decisions yet. If you're pending, don't worry about it. We are behind because we got 10,000 more applications than we expected, right? So if you find something like that, that's probably fine. They also might directly email you to explain the situation. So that's another form of hearing directly from the school. If you haven't gotten either of those as confirmation, I would go ahead and send an email to the admissions department at the school and say, hey, this is the situation. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a mistake. Nobody's going to get mad at you. Like they told you they would tell you by late January. If it's January 31st at 7 p.m. and you haven't heard anything, send them an email, right? Figure it out. That's totally normal. Won't get you in trouble. Second thing to do, if relevant, you can send update letters or letters of continued interest to schools that still haven't sent you a decision if they've essentially deferred telling you or you're still under review. Now, if you have no actual updates, right? You don't have any more awards or clubs or grade updates or anything, that could be a one-line email, right? Where you're just like, hey, I just saw that I'm still under review. Please know that I really hope to get a decision soon. I'm extremely interested in your college or university, and let me know if there's anything else you need from me. Though usually with a letter of continued interest, I want to know updates that might shift the lever in your favor if any happen to exist. Now, some schools may not look at this at all. My general rule of thumb with Lokis is if they don't forbid you to send it, then you're fine sending it, and it won't hurt you, and it could help you. If people know you're engaged, that works towards that idea of demonstrated interest. Most of the schools that are doing things like this are more likely to hold demonstrated interest in consideration versus, I think, your elite private universities. This usually doesn't happen. It's more state schools that just have such large application volume and variable application volume that it can be unpredictable. But yeah, if you've got updates, send them. I've got a whole video on letter of continued interest, so I'm not going to get into the details of what you should put in that letter and how you should frame it. It's all the same thing, whether you're deferred, whether you're no EA decision yet, still under review. It's just reasserting your interest. And sometimes they'll even give you a form and all that stuff. But check out the Loki video. That will give you all the tips there. And finally, my third tip is just relax and wait. I know this is stressful, But realistically, most college applications were already due. There are a few that have later application deadlines, and maybe your plan was to hear from your EA, and then if you didn't get in, you'll apply to more and you didn't want to pay those fees. Unfortunately, this is the way that it works. It's kind of hard to speed people up who haven't given you information, and you might have to apply to those additional schools, and I know it's a pain. But just wait and proceed as if you didn't get in at this point, and then hopefully you'll be hearing from that university shortly. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you need any support in this process, we have myself and other coaches who can help you try to figure out how to best put together a letter of continued interest or do whatever it is you need to do. You can check us out at SupertutorTV.com. I'll see you guys soon.